You think your credit card points are free profit. You think you're the one gaming the system. But what if I told you that swiping your card is biologically identical to taking a local anesthetic before a surgery you didn't know you were having? You're actually paying a 100% Neuro-Tax on every swipe without feeling a thing. When MIT researchers auctioned off NBA tickets, they found one group was willing to pay $60.64 on average compared to just $28.51 for the cash bidders. The only difference wasn't the seat, it was the thin piece of plastic in their pocket. I am going to reveal the Friction Reset, a specific 3-step psychological framework that allows you to enjoy the rewards of credit without falling for the neuro trap that makes you spend twice as much as you intended. Because there is a hidden mechanism called decoupling that top-tier retailers use to make your brain believe you're getting something for free, even as your bank account drains. I'll show you the exact moment your brain mutes the loss, and the one physical habit that brings the pain back, just enough to save your profit margins. To understand how this hijacking happens, you have to look at what occurs when you're sitting at a high-end Chicago steakhouse. The $400 bill arrives, and as you reach for your wallet to pull out physical cash, you feel an uncomfortable sting in your chest. That sting isn't just financial regret, it's a physical reaction. Recent fMRI scans show that when cash leaves your hand, the anterior insula, your brain's pain center, lights up like a Christmas tree. This is the exact same region that fires if you burn your hand. Your brain processes losing cash like losing a limb, but it processes digital numbers as mere data. This is why you hesitate to tip 20% in cash, but effortlessly tap it on a screen. Cash acts as a natural brake on impulsivity. Loss aversion is over 2 times more powerful than the joy of gain, but only when the loss is visible. Paying with physical money is a moral tax. Let's test this. 3, 2, 1. Which payment method makes people tip 11% less on average, even when the service is identical? The answer is tapping your phone. Most believe people are just getting stingier, but it's actually because the faster the transaction, the more your brain treats the money as monopoly units rather than actual labor hours. Right now, in our 2026 economy, the average U.S. credit card transaction is $108.30, while cash is under $25. Your brain isn't just choosing a payment method, it's choosing how much pain of paying it's willing to tolerate. Have you ever looked at your statement and felt that sudden drop in your stomach? Drop a yes in the comments if you know that digital hangover. Because that drop, that's the anesthetic wearing off. Picture a digital marketer, maybe even you, designing a one-click checkout for a $1,500 course. The ultimate challenge isn't the product value, it's getting the user to ignore that price tag. By removing the pain of paying, we don't just get a neutral reaction, we get a massive reward surge. In a landmark 2021 fMRI study, MIT researchers scanned buyers' brains at the exact moment of purchase. They discovered that cards don't just reduce pain, they actively stimulate the striatum. The striatum is basically your brain's hype man, the exact same dopaminergic reward center hit by addictive drugs like cocaine. It doesn't matter if you're buying a $5 coffee or a $5,000 software subscription, the card itself is the trigger. Think about that rush you feel when the order confirmed screen pops up. Be honest with me in the comments. Do you get a bigger thrill from actually using the item or from the split-second high of buying it? That high is your brain actively rewarding you for spending money. Your credit card isn't just a tool. In our 2026 economy, it's a literal gas pedal for your dopamine. Cards transform a transaction into a reward through classical conditioning, which is basically a fancy way of saying your brain has been trained to associate the click with the immediate arrival of a package. Which brings us to a terrifying question. 3, 2, 1. If you see a credit card logo on a restaurant tray, do you think you'll tip more or less? The answer is you tip more. But the percentage isn't the point. What's scary is why your brain chose to be generous. Even if you aren't using the card, just seeing the logo increases tips by up to 25% because it subconsciously primes the brain for frictionless spending. This is exactly why credit card users are 2.5 times more likely to make a purchase they didn't plan for, compared to those who only have a $50 bill in their wallet. Using plastic is essentially a financial local anesthetic. It lets the retail surgeon seamlessly remove your money while you're happily distracted by the TV. But what happens when they don't just numb the pain, but push it so far into the future that your brain can't even compute the loss? Enter the decoupling effect. This is what happens when you buy a $2,000 MacBook on a 12-month installment plan. It only feels like $166 a month, right? That is temporal decoupling, which is basically like eating a whole pizza today, but convincing yourself the calories won't hit your waistline until next year. You get all the dopamine right now, but the pain is pushed so far into the future that your brain simply cannot compute it. Look, I'll admit it. I once bought a 3-year subscription to a productivity app that I have never actually opened. Why? Because the massive annual discount successfully decoupled my brain from the $200 loss. I felt like a genius saver while actively losing money. Let's test your own brain right now. Why do people enjoy an all-inclusive resort more than a pay-as-you-go vacation, even if it costs 20% more? 3, 2, 1. The answer is that you pay the pain once at the start. This choice actually predicts a fundamental flaw in how we perceive value, which means every major brand is already tracking your preference for pain-free consumption. Making every subsequent drink feel free proves your brain values the absence of pain over actual mathematical savings. When we look back at the transition period of 2024, specifically that massive 45% spike in remote and mobile payments among 18 to 24-year-olds, we see the foundation of our exact 2026 reality. We now have an entire generation operating with zero payment salience. Payment salience is basically how vividly you feel the money leaving your hands. When you separate buying from paying, the moral tax of spending completely disappears. Studies show that bundling or delaying payments leads to a 30% increase in sunk cost neglect. Think about that gym membership you never use but still pay for. Friction is the only thing keeping your net worth from flatlining because the brain is biologically incapable of valuing future pain as much as present pleasure. Be honest with me down in the comments. How many active subscriptions do you currently have that you haven't used this month? Drop a number. So, how do we fix this Neuro-Tax? I call it the friction reset framework. 3 steps. First, the manual notification rule. Disable all auto payment notifications and set your banking app to send a text for every single purchase over $1. Second, the 24-hour digital holding tank. Items must sit in your cart for 24 hours to recouple the buying and paying emotions. Third, the cash equivalent visualization. Before every digital swipe, mentally count the physical $20 bills required for that purchase. By reintroducing this cognitive friction, you force the anterior insula to wake up from its neuro-anesthetic state, allowing your prefrontal cortex to step in and override the striatum's reward surge. The most expensive thing you can own is a brain that doesn't feel the weight of what it's losing. Go into your phone settings right now and turn on transaction alerts for your primary credit card. Make the invisible loss visible again. Now that you've mastered your own spending, how do you use these same psychological triggers to ethically increase your own business sales? Understanding the pain of paying is only half the battle. You need to know the decoy effect to make your prices look invisible to your customers. If you want to know how the world's biggest brands make a $1,000 product look like a $10 steal, you need to watch this next.